So this is our topic. Basically, this is part 2. Okay, but let me go through part 1 again because a lot of things have changed since 2 weeks back. So you guys should know that fundamental has changed. Okay, so some of you may know that since February this year and early February this year, you find that the yield of the 10-year treasury notes have been giving the stock market some problem, right? So each time when the 10-year treasury notes yield spike up, what happens? The stock market come down. Why? Because it is an indication that interest rate is going to go up. Okay, and then there is this issue regarding is inflation transitory. Okay, transitory. But then you may recall that last Friday the stock market came down. Okay, then yesterday, which was Monday, the market rebounded. Now, what caused the Friday stock market to come down despite the fact that the yield of the 10-year treasury notes actually came down below 1.5%? Okay, came down below 1.5%. As I said earlier on, each time when the 10-year yield or 10-year treasury notes the yield spike up above 1.5%, sometimes even go as high as above 1.6%, the stock market came down. But last Friday, it was very unique because the 10-year treasury notes, the yield actually fell below 1.5%, yet the stock market came down. Reason is very simple. Because the short-term yield, okay, that means anything that is 5 years and below, 5 years and below treasury notes, the short-term yield spike up, okay, as a result of the FOMC press conference on Thursday morning 2 a.m. Last Thursday morning 2 a.m. Okay, so the short-term yield spike up, but then the 10-year to 30-year treasury notes, the yield actually came down. Okay, so what happened? This is what we call flattening yield. Okay, you may recall that 2 years ago in 2019, we encounter a flattening yield, isn't it? Okay, if you can recall. And flattening yield has a risk of becoming an inverted yield. Okay, so statistically, when it comes to recession, all US recession, okay, or rather all recession in the US actually preceded by an inverted yield. Inverted yield means what? That means the short-term yield, okay, short-term yield is higher than the long-term yield. Okay, so that's called inverted yield. By right shouldn't be, isn't it? Because long-term the yield should be higher, right? For example, if you open a fixed deposit account, if you put your fixed deposit for 5 years, definitely the interest rate got to be higher than that of a 1-year fixed deposit, isn't it? Because of the risk and uncertainty over a longer period of time. So last Friday there was a flattening yield, which is a risk because it can become an inverted yield. And then yesterday, Monday, what happened? The long-term treasury notes, the yield actually rebounded. Okay, so when it rebounded, then the whole yield curve becomes positive again. Okay, that means becomes a normal yield curve. So the stock market rebounded. So you can see that the stock market has been fluctuating. When I'm referring to US market, has been fluctuating because of this fundamental change in market fundamental. Okay, change in the yield, and then the problem now is that the stock market, not everyone believe what Jerome Powell said, that the inflation is transitory. Okay, so this thing will come back and haunt the market from time to time. So you find that there's a lot, it's going to create a lot of uncertainty, it's going to create a lot of volatility in the US market, which will spill over even to the Asia market, okay, and perhaps even to European markets as well. Now, if you are aware, you find that this week is a week full of speeches, okay, speeches made by FOMC members. Okay, So in fact, yesterday there was an FOMC member speaking, and then later today, okay, at 2 a.m. tomorrow morning, Jerome Powell will be speaking, okay, and all these are already scheduled. So you find that market may be muted, okay, market may be quite muted this week because all the traders and investors want to listen, okay, they're trying to get any hint from FOMC members who are speaking this week. So either it is muted or volatility start to increase, okay, because there's a lot of uncertainty, okay, in the market. So this is a disclaimer. Basically, I do not represent CGS CIMB. I'm just an invited speaker. So whatever I share is basically my view. Nothing to do with CGS CIMB, and it's also a disclaimer. Okay, in the sense that whatever I share is my own personal view. So please take it with a pinch of salt. Okay, just to put it in layman's terms. Okay, that's me. Okay, this is something which I shared with you guys in part 1 before, but let me go through again for those who are here for part 2 without going through part 1. Basically, you find that all these, for the past 10 years or decade, you find that, or even 20 years, most of the time you find that it is the tech stock that tend to outperform value stocks. Okay, tech stocks are normally they are the growth stocks. So they tend to outperform. Okay, so you can see that from 2003 to 2020, which is last year, you find that, Nasdaq 100 actually gained 1,210%. That's the return. That means it's 12 times. Okay, and for Dow only 266%. Okay, now you must understand, because tech stocks are mainly growth stocks. So growth stocks are like teenagers. They still got a lot of upside. Teenagers, they can still grow in terms of height, isn't it? Perhaps even in terms of weight. But if you are value stocks, that means you are a traditional matured stock. You find that your growth will not be that fast compared to tech stocks. Okay, so for the past 18 years, from 2003 to 2020, so the Nasdaq outperformed Dow. Okay, out of 18 years, 14 years actually you find Nasdaq outperform. Okay, of the 18 years you find that Nasdaq outperformed Dow Jones in 14 years, and the 4 years that Dow Jones actually outperformed Nasdaq, you find that most of the time is during a crisis. That means during a crisis, you find that Dow Jones tend to outperform Nasdaq. Okay, so which are the 4 exceptional years where Dow outperformed Nasdaq? You find that it is 2006 due to soaring oil prices. So some of you may recall in 2006 what happened. Oil prices start to move up until 2008. If I'm not wrong, the WTI, Western Texas Intermediary, went up to as high as $148 per barrel. Then you find that in 2008, what happened? You had a global financial crisis, right? Then in 2011, you have the European debt crisis. And then you find that in 2016, when Donald Trump got elected, okay, that actually spooked the market. Okay, spooked the market. So if we narrow it down to the past decade, that means only the past 10 years. How many years did Nasdaq beat Dow? Okay, outperform Dow is 8 years. Okay, 8 years. So most of the time you find that from here statistically you can see that most of the time Dow Jones outperform Nasdaq, but when there is a crisis, Dow Jones will outperform. Most of the time you find Nasdaq will outperform Dow. Okay, but when there is a crisis, you will find that Dow Jones outperform Nasdaq. Okay, so now whether this year 2021, whether Dow can outperform Nasdaq will depend on how true inflation or how real inflation is going to be. Okay, now of course FOMC, Federal Reserve, has been insists that inflation is transitory. But in the event inflation is not transitory, what happens? you find that you will lead to a crisis. Okay, you will lead to a crisis, and you may find that the yield curve may become inverted. Okay, if the yield curve becomes inverted, that means potentially it may go into a recession. Okay, potentially. This at this point of time, I need to tell you guys is that all recession in the US, okay, has been preceded with an inverted yield curve. But then, not all inverted yield curve ultimately lead to a recession. So this is something you need to know. Okay? So for those of you who are high risk taker, after you have heard this, you need to be very careful if you are trading tech stocks, okay, of growth stocks, because you find that in the event inflation is not going to be transitory, you find that Nasdaq will tend to be slow. Okay, Dow Jones may be the one to outperform. So at this point of time, this is taken as at end of this morning, when the US session closed, you find that Dow Jones year-to-date performance is 10.69%. Okay, and Nasdaq Composite is 9.72%. In fact, Nasdaq is catching up slowly. Nasdaq is actually catching up slowly. So the difference is now about 1%. Okay, the difference now is about 1%. But please note that Nasdaq is terribly very volatile. But if you look at yesterday, Monday, when the US stock market rebounded, if you look at Nasdaq, actually Dow Jones in terms of percentage, Dow Jones and S&P 500 outperformed Nasdaq yesterday. Okay, if you understand what am I saying. Yesterday, just looking at Monday market, which ended this morning, Dow Jones and S&P 500 outperformed Nasdaq Composite in terms of yesterday's performance. So you can see even in the rebound, Nasdaq did not rebound as strong as Dow Jones. Now you need to understand Dow components. So if you read our daily market update, okay, you will know that Dow component stocks are mainly value stocks, okay, and they are also cyclical stocks. That means as the US economy starts to recover, as the US economy starts to reopen, you find that these are the stocks that will tend to benefit, okay? But in case there is another wave of COVID comes in, then you find that Nasdaq may tend to outperform Dow, okay? But if it's a recession, it's different case. If it's a recession, you find that Dow may outperform Nasdaq. But if it's due to the COVID pandemic, you find that Nasdaq may outperform Dow for very simple reason, because there could be a potential lockdown, work from home. You find that tech stock tend to do well when when there's a lockdown and people are forced to work from home, right? They start to order groceries through Amazon and so forth. Okay, so you must understand, when I say crisis, it all depends what kind of crisis. If it's an economic crisis because of a recession, you find that Dow will outperform. But if it's a pandemic crisis, then you find that tech stock may outperform. Okay, so this is something you need to understand. Then we talk about bank stocks. I remember the previous session, I did say that bank stocks will tend to benefit when the 10-year treasury notes, the yield spike up. Okay, spike up. Why? Because when the 10-year treasury notes, the yield spike up, means what? The net interest margin of the banks tends to improve, isn't it? So the margin of the banks tends to improve, so bank earnings may increase. But because last Friday, what happened? Or rather, yes, last Friday, you find that there is a potential flattening yield curve. A flattening yield curve is bad for bank stocks. You must understand this. Okay, why? Because that means what? Short-term interest rate has gone up, long-term interest rate has come down. Currently, before this thing happened, you find that short-term interest rate has been suppressed by the QE. Okay, because Federal Reserve has been buying all the short-term treasuries. As a result, suppress the short-term interest rate. But then after FOMC, because they talk about potentially 2 rounds of rate hike by 2023, so you find that short-term interest rates start to spike up. Now, this is not good for bank stocks. You need to know. Okay, you need to know, because so that you guys can see. The problem now is fundamentals are not stable. Okay, anytime the yield curve can flatten, anytime the long-term interest rate can spike up, and it spook the market again. What I'm trying to tell you is that US market is not stable now. Okay, because there's this big question mark whether is inflation transitory. Now, why is it that when there's a flattening yield curve, we should avoid bank stocks? Because banks they borrow using short-term interest. Okay, and short-term interest is always lower than long-term, isn't it? So they borrow short-term based on short-term interest, but they lend out based on long-term interest. So they borrow at a lower interest rate, but they lend out at a higher interest rate. But when there is a flattening yield curve, what happens? The spread between the long-term interest rate and the short-term interest rate start to narrow down. As a result, the net interest margin of banks starts to no longer attractive. Okay, that means the profit margin of banks start to decline. Okay, so this is something you need to know. Now, that's why it's very important for you guys, if you are already in our Telegram channel, please check the daily market update in our mobile app. Okay, so I hope all of you have already downloaded the TT Global mobile app if you are already in our Telegram channel. Okay, so not all of you are in our Telegram channel. I understand this, not a problem. And our mobile app is free. We don't charge. Except that if free user, you can only access the daily market update. You can't access the stock picks. Okay, you can't access the stock picks. Okay, come to NASDAQ. So NASDAQ, you have the tech stocks, which are mainly growth stocks. Okay, and these have benefited during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, isn't it? When everybody tends to work from home. Okay, now tech stocks is something that is very wide because different sectors. Okay, different sectors. So you must understand that now what happened. The problem now is that if it's inflationary, then you find that consumer discretionary stocks may get hit. Okay, may get hit because inflation. When you say consumer discretionary stocks means what? It is those businesses that sell their products directly to consumer. Now, some of these stocks, consumer discretionary, are also, from layman term, they also consider them as tech stocks. Like what? Alibaba, Amazon, right? Because they are selling goods, products, and services directly to consumer. So they may get hit because that means what? In fact, if you have been reading the news, Amazon, they are already indicating that cost is surging higher. Okay, cost has gone up a lot. So there are Amazon Prime Day or whatever it is. They say that their products may need to increase in prices because cost has gone up a lot. Now, in my own personal opinion, just my own personal opinion, unlikely inflation is transitory. That means inflation is real. For a very simple reason, I will skip all this. I will explain to you why. Okay, I skip all this because all this I already shown those in the previous session. Okay. First of all, you need to understand why is there inflation. Okay, you need to understand why is there inflation. First of all, inflation is due to what? There's a demand and supply side. Okay, so demand has gone up a lot. Why? Because global economy is recovering. So you find that demand suddenly shoot up. Okay, and because 2020 is a pandemic, what happened? It started off with a lower base. Okay, so 2021 is a global economic recovery. So demand shoot up. Okay, so demand for goods and services has gone up. But how about on the supply side? The problem with supply is that supply has been disrupted. Supply chain has been disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, example would be, for example, BTO flats. Like HDB BTO flats, you find that it's already announced that a lot of these BTO flats, their TOP, date of completion, has been postponed by 2 years, maybe even 3 years, right? Because shortage of migrant workers, plus cost has increased because they need to implement certain safe measures at the work site. Okay, supply chain has been disrupted. For example, shortage of microchips, and that in turn impacted production of electric vehicles, right, or even autonomous vehicles, and other electronic items that require microchips. So because of this, you find that supply chain disrupted, demand has risen because of global economic recovery. This is the reason why there is inflation. In fact, annualized inflation over in the US has already gone way beyond the Federal Reserve target. Federal Reserve target is 2%, and 2% is based on PCE, personal consumption expenditure, which is due to be released, if I'm not wrong, sometime this week. Okay? So the previous PCE is already quite high. The problem now is why Jerome Powell insists that inflation is transitory, because they see that this disruption of supply chain will be resolved soon. Okay, will be resolved soon. But this is very unlikely unless you tell me that COVID-19 pandemic will be gone within the next 2 years, which is unlikely because of this Delta variant, right? Delta variant from India, which according to WHO is still mutating, and in fact it is mutating even faster, and some medical experts already say that if the mutation continue up to X generation, what happens? The current vaccine may not even be effective anymore. Okay, but anyway, so to the AMO, okay, to the Americans, to the European, this COVID-19 pandemic is temporary, because the moment you have 2 jabs of vaccine, in the US, they say that you don't even need to observe safe distancing. You can actually mask off, take off your mask, whether indoor or outdoor. But you see in Singapore, it's very different. Singapore we are very stringent. Okay, even with 2 jabs of vaccine, you still observe all the safe measures. Okay, so if you believe that COVID-19 within the next 2 years will disappear from planet Earth, then inflation perhaps can be transitory. But if you believe that COVID-19 will be here to stay, with all the mutation taking place, not only Delta but Beta, whatever, all the Greek, then you find that this disruption of supply chain will remain. Okay? We just need to be realistic. So why did the Fed say inflation is transitory? Because they view COVID-19 pandemic as temporary. Okay? In fact, in South Korea, you'll be surprised. They say that the moment you have 2 jabs, you don't even need to observe safe distancing. The problem is how I know whether you got 2 jabs or not. I also don't know. Okay? Let me go stand a bit reverse. Okay, this is something very interesting. Okay? So I hope you understand how the Federal Reserve arrived at inflation is transitory. Now, nominal interest rate. Current Federal Reserve interest rate, the Fed fund rate is 0.25%. Okay, it's 0 to 0.25%. Let's take the higher range, 0.25%. Now, inflation, which the Federal Reserve FOMC members did say that they don't mind inflation go as high as 2.5%. But based on annualized CPI, Consumer Price Index in the US, is already 4%. Okay? is already 4%. But anyway, let's say it's 2.5%, which means the real or the effective interest rate will be how much? Will be actually 0.25 minus 2.5%, right? Current interest rate is 0.25, but it's been eroded by a high inflation of 2.5%, which means the effective interest rate is actually minus 2.5%. That means it's negative. So in other words, for the Federal Reserve, in order to hedge against inflation, interest rate got to go up. So now, I believe suddenly they actually brought forward the rate hike. Because previous FOMC, they say that it's 2024. Now suddenly they say it's 2023. That means by 2023, there will be at least 2 rounds of rate hike. The problem now is if inflation is 2.5, this is the lower end of inflation. And current interest rate is 0.25. And they are minimum or rather 2 rounds of rate hike. That means each rate hike, what do you think is going to be the increase in interest rate? How many percentage point? Usually they will increase by 25 percentage point, isn't it? Now, with a high interest rate of a high inflation rate of 2.5%, which means that each time they have a rate hike, it may be 50 percentage points, it may be 75 percentage points in order to catch up with inflation. Now, if they are to catch up with inflation by have a rate hike of 50 percentage points, 75 percentage points, let me ask you, can the stock market take it? The stock market cannot take it. It will collapse. Okay? It will just plunge. Okay? It will just plunge. You must understand, since 2015, okay, interest rate has been going up. Okay, Fed fund rate has been going up, and that time Jerome Powell said that it is due to normalization of interest rate because interest rate cannot remain low. And for so many years, okay, for the past 10 years, inflation has been very muted. It cannot even hit the FOMC inflation target of 2%. Okay, globally you find that past 10 years, inflation has been muted, but it is only this year suddenly inflation spiked up. Why? Because of last year, globally, the economy went into recession. Okay, so this year, recovery, so demand go up, spike up inflation, plus supply chain disrupted. So you can see, in other words, if the Federal Reserve does not increase interest rate, stock market also cannot take it because of inflation. Isn't it? Cannot take it. Now, if the Federal Reserve increase interest rate, if they increase too fast, that means each time they increase by 75 percentage points, 50 percentage points, the stock market also cannot take it. So this is something you need to know. Then from here, I want to bring you to gold. Get GOLD, gold. Because this is something people ask. Now, gold tends to go up, but you notice that after FOMC last Thursday, what happened to gold? Gold actually came back down. Why? Dollar strengthened because of potential rate hike, right? Minimum 2 rate hike, starting from next year to 2023. Okay, 2 rate hike, and FOMC did say that before any rate hike, there will be tapering of the QE. Okay, tapering of the QE. So because of that, what happened? US dollar strengthened, gold comes down. Okay. Now, you want to monitor gold, it's not that easy because gold, whether gold can go up or not, okay, will depend on the spread. The spread, that means the difference between the Fed fund rate and the inflation rate. Okay, the spread between the interest rate and the inflation rate. Why? In fact, the wider the spread, the more opportunity for gold to move up towards $1,009 or $2,000. Okay. because interest rate is so low, okay, cannot hedge against gold. Cannot hedge against inflation, which is 2.5%, 3%, right? So interest rate is insufficient to hedge against inflation. What happens? Investors will start to rush to buy gold, to use gold to hedge against inflation. Okay, but because now interest rate is going to move up, okay, what they call lift off. Interest rate is going to move up, therefore the spread between the interest rate and the inflation rate starts to narrow down. Because of this, you find that the upside for gold may be there may be some limitation. Okay, there may be some limitation. So what am I trying to tell you all this? I'm trying to tell you is that nowadays, how the market is going to move depend on a lot of economic data, depend a lot of market fundamentals. So it's not so much like technical anymore. If you look at the chart, you find that today suddenly come down, tomorrow suddenly go up. Why? Because of certain economic data, because of someone in FOMC said something. Okay? So you find that market is actually very uncertain and the volatility may start to go up. Okay? Volatility may start to go up. So I skip all this. Okay, there will be further inflation because Joe Biden, the US president, is going to increase the minimum wage and so forth. And then Joe Biden is now fighting for the Congress to approve his $2 trillion worth of infrastructure project. Now, this is going to increase demand for construction material, isn't it? Steel, cement, sand, whatever. You find that all this is going to drive inflation upward. Okay, all this I skip because most of them are already covered in the last session. Now we talk about bear market. Okay. Now potentially there is a possibility of a bear market coming. Okay, there is a possibility. This is the reason why this week market may be muted or market may be extremely volatile. Extremely volatile means what? Tuesday go up, Wednesday come down, because it all depends how the FOMC members who are scheduled to speak this week, what are they going to say? You must understand, FOMC members, not all of them subscribe the same view or outlook for inflation. Not all of them, okay? Because all their monetary policies are put on votes, okay? Votes. So majority vote for this direction of the monetary policy, then they will implement. But it does not mean that everybody agree to that monetary policy. Of course, once it's confirmed that the FOMC will move in that direction, then everybody got to support it. Okay? Now, you must understand bear market. In the event there's a bear market, it is possible to have a bear market even in the midst of a global economic recovery. It is possible because nowadays anything is possible. Okay, and you must understand bear market doesn't happen overnight. They may take 1 year, 6 months to 1 year to develop, just like what happened during the global financial crisis 2008, right? Actually, the signs and symptoms of a global financial crisis, or rather the US subprime mortgage crisis, started to appear as early as September 2007. It's just that nobody knows what is it. Okay, some people know, but nobody want to listen. So you find that it took 1 year. September 2007, the signs and symptoms start to appear, Then what happened? About 11 months later, August 2008, Lehman Brothers collapsed. Okay, and then October 2008 was the full swing of the bear market appeared. Okay, until March 2009. Okay, so please understand the bear market doesn't happen overnight. Okay, it will show you certain signs and symptoms. Now, why am I telling you all this? Remember earlier on I told you, if it is an economic crisis, what happened? Value stocks will tend to outperform growth stocks because it's an economic crisis. Okay? So value stocks will tend to outperform in the sense that when they drop, they will not drop as much as growth stocks. When they recover, value stocks will tend to recover faster than growth stocks. Okay? But if it's a pandemic-related crisis, then it's a different story. For example, suddenly there is a major wave of Delta variant COVID-19 globally. You find that growth stocks tend to outperform. Why? Because growth stocks, quite a number of tech stocks are basically what? Stay-at-home stocks, right? They basically they support stay-at-home, right? Zoom, delivery, food delivery like Meituan, all this, they tend to outperform. They tend to benefit from COVID-19 crisis due to stay at home. Okay, so you need to understand. What I'm trying to say that you need to be more business-minded. Okay, you need to be more business-minded so that when you look at this, you know what are the sectors that tend to benefit. Now, there's no hard and fast rule because anything can happen. Changes can come and go at a very rapid space, time. Okay? So, I can tell you something today, but it may be obsolete at the end of this week. Isn't it? For example, during the last session, I told you about the 10-year yield that's spiking up. But what happened last week? Suddenly, market started talking about flattening yield. No? So overnight, the whole thing changed. So now I can tell you about flattening yield. I do not know. 1 week later, the market may start to show some concern regarding other things. Nobody knows. Okay? So this is the reason why it's very important. You need to keep yourself updated with our daily market update. Okay? Which is available free of charge. You don't even need to pay or subscribe anything. Just download our TP Global mobile app. But please, you need to create a profile. You need to create a profile, especially your postal code. A lot of you don't really put your postal code. So you need to put your postal code inside your profile. Now, what are the stocks should we be looking at currently? Okay, if you are talking about, that's why you need to monitor. For example, Joe Biden is having problem now with the Congress. He is not able to get bipartisan vote regarding the infrastructure program. Okay. But once he's able, they need to compromise, they need to negotiate. Once he's able to push through, what happened? You find that industrial-related stocks, construction-related stocks, material-related stocks will tend to benefit from infrastructure. Isn't it? Okay? I mean, this is actually common sense. As long as you have some sense of business, you will know, right? And we know that crude oil is bullish now. Okay? Projection of crude oil target is $80. Okay? By end of this year. Reason is if international border is opening up, you find that demand for crude oil will go up, isn't it? Because right now, international border is still not fully open. Okay? You find that during holidays, what happens? People tend to travel more. Okay? I'm not talking about Singapore. I'm talking about big countries like China, US. When they can go for domestic, local holidays without leaving the country, you find that all these need crude oil. Okay? So, to play safe, you may want to start looking at crude oil related stocks, industrial related stocks, depending whether how fast Joe Biden can pull through the infrastructure program. And if the yield doesn't flatten, okay? If the yield doesn't flatten with interest rate going up, you find that financial stocks tends to benefit. Okay, but if the flattening yields comes back again, you find that financial stocks will be spooked again. That means it will go down. Okay, so these are the things that you need to see and be very careful. Okay, if there's a third wave, fourth wave of global COVID-19 coming back, then you may want to look at stay-at-home stocks, isn't it? Like Zoom, or even those healthcare, okay, healthcare stocks, especially those that can help you to diagnose your health, diagnose your medical problem from home. Okay, so some of these stocks you may want to look at it. So basically, I cannot tell you exactly what sector to focus in because it all depends on the scenario. Okay, so from time to time, we will update you through the market update, which you need to go and read. Okay, because things are still very fluid at this point of time. Okay, for example, today STI is the only stock index in Southeast Asia that is negative. Malaysia positive, Philippines positive, if I'm not wrong. Okay, Indonesia, Thailand, if I'm not wrong, also positive. I think Singapore is the only one that's negative. Okay, so things are still very fluid. Okay, so there's no way for me to tell you what are the stocks to focus in. Okay. Please note that normal tech stocks, okay, normal tech stocks like Google, all this, even Microsoft, they are actually overvalued, okay, compared to value stocks. If you look at the PE ratio of most of the tech stocks, you find that they are actually above 30. Some of them are even above 40. But if you look at value stocks, some of the PE ratio are way below 20. Okay, way below 20. So this is something you need to know. So for me, at this point of time, I would prefer to look for value stocks. Okay, because I see a lot of bumpy road ahead of us, ahead of the US market. So you just need to be very careful because things is not so straightforward. Okay. Now over the last weekend, last weekend, Sunday, right? We have a tutorial session which I told those of you who have attended the tutorial session, I introduced to you two ETF, right? One is a value stock ETF, the other one is a growth stock ETF. So I'm not going to cover this here, okay? So if you want to create a US stock portfolio, okay, I think these are the two ETF you can actually take a look. For example, if you are in favor of value stocks, okay, you are in favor of value stocks, then you may want to choose the value stock ETF plus the SPY, okay, as part of your portfolio for your US stocks, okay, for your US stocks. But if you are more into tech stocks, because of the scenario has changed, stay at home, government all over the world are implementing stay at home, work from home, then you may want to look at the